Shinboners, today we welcome back our first ever two-time guest. However, this time with the newly printed title of Premiership Captain. Our first ever Premiership Captain in our women's side, Emma Kearney. Emma, thanks so much for jumping on again.
Thanks for having me. Good to be chatting all things Premiership in North Melbourne.
First of all, congratulations on the season. Obviously, going through undefeated with just the minor blemish of a draw against the Cats, but we've taken the next step and got the Premiership. I don't think the girls could have had a better season. You must be stoked.
Oh yeah, I am. It was terrific the way that we were able to finish off the year after having such a dominant home and away season. Sometimes when you go into final series undefeated, you probably put another layer of pressure on yourself. But yeah, I think this year we were sort of proven that we didn't have to rely on one or two players to really step up. We sort of have had team performances across the board, which really helped with our success in the season.
Yeah, perfect. So we might go back to the start of the season. So obviously, coming off the heartbreak of the grand final loss the year before, tend to see sides can either compete again or completely fall off. Was the grand final loss spoken about much? Was it used as a motivator, or was it just sort of push that aside? We've got the list to compete again.
Yeah, it's funny because so many people have asked us about that in the media about if we use it as motivation, and we didn't really, to be honest. Like Croc's not someone that uses emotion to motivate his players. He just sort of inspires us to get better every day. So um, I'm sure in the back of our minds we were pretty hungry to go one better. We knew that we were really close to Brisbane in that grand final loss. Unfortunately, just ran out of legs in the last quarter. But I think for us, we just went away in that off season. We got ourselves in the best condition that we've ever had, thanks to our performance team. And yeah, we just got to work, and then came back into pre-season really fit and firing. There was only small elements of the grand final that we reviewed. It was probably a lot around our ball movement and the opportunities that we had that we could have really attacked. Brisbane, we sort of played sort of just in straight lines a lot down the line, pretty boring kind of football. So yeah, I think the focus for us was how can we, move the ball with a bit more speed and really disrupt other opposition's defences, which I think we were able to prove that throughout the year. I thought we played a really attacking style of footy that was really enjoyable to watch.
Yeah, really challenged the corridor, didn't you? Like brought it inside at the first opportunity, even if it was a 50 or a more dangerous kick, you take it on and back the person in to win the ball. And
Yeah,
once it
definitely.
opened up, the floodgates just opened. Like we didn't have 315% for not being a good offensive team, did we?
No, that's right. And look, it wasn't really a directive from Croc to go through the corridor. If the opportunity was to present itself, then sure, let's use it. And when you've got someone like Jazz Garner there that's so good one on one, you're probably more likely to take it than not. And then we've got such good runners off half back that then we can generate a bit more speed on the ball, which then gave our forwards better looks at it. And yeah, we were able to prove, it wasn't just the one or two forwards that stepped up this year. It was just a whole range of them that were able to contribute on their day.
Well, great sides have even goal spread of goal kickers, and that's what we had. We said in one of our pods that we're probably the only team you could say you could put a case for any of the forwards kicking 3 or 4 goals on any given day. So it wasn't just such a reliance we'd probably seen in the past on Talia or someone like that kicking, 3 or 4. We had anyone. And on grand final day, I don't think any of the tall forwards kicked goals, unless you count Vicky Ward,
Nah,
tall forward. But,
yeah, but no, she's probably that hybrid, and yeah, she was able
yeah,
to
yeah.
stand up, and obviously Alice as well. So yeah, you're right. Like it's really handy. Not having just the reliance on one or two because whether it be Talia or Kate Sheila would take the number one defender and it would let the others off the chain, and someone like Alice who had a terrific year as an All Australian, she would take probably the best small defender, which then allowed Bella Eddie to sort of come up and pop up occasionally. So yeah, it was really pleasing to see, and clearly like our midfielders, led by Ash and Jazz there, they were able to kick goals on their given day as well, which obviously puts pressure on the opposition's midfield too to defend properly.
Oh, 100%. So looking back at round one, did it feel like a bit of a small step for the club? Obviously, we hadn't beaten Brisbane in any previous encounters, and we went up on their home deck, obviously fresh off our first performance since the grand final loss and just a dominating victory. Did that sort of bring some extra belief to the group?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I think going into the preseason, knowing that our, fitness results had all increased, we knew that we were going to be a better side as a result of that and be able to compete with, say, a Brisbane that are naturally quite a fit side. So going up there, it was hot conditions. We were probably a little bit worried in, being round one. We'd just come off a really cold winter where we were training in pre-season in the middle of winter to then go out and play. I was in the mid-30s, I think. So it was pretty hot conditions. But, yeah, our medical staff and trainers, they were incredible. Every time you'd come on the bench, they'd be throwing ice vests on you and trying to cool you down. And, yeah, to come out 40-odd points victors, and I thought we just completely controlled the game. It gave the group just the most amount of confidence, knowing that if we can play our way, we're really hard to play against defensively. We were hard to score against. But then I think the most pleasing thing was our ability to put on a lot of scores quite quickly, which hasn't been the trend for us previously. We've been really good defensively, but hasn't been able to translate onto the scoreboard. So that was probably pleasing round one, which gave us great confidence.
Yeah, I think we saw obviously that more attacking game style you mentioned and just how unstoppable it looked at times. It definitely seemed to catch Brisbane off guard. Um, as you mentioned, other times it might have been a bit slower in previous years, but just the likes of Taylor Gatt, Erica O'Shea coming through with the power of run yourself, obviously. Yeah, I think it caught them off guard and proved to us that that game style holds up against the very best.
Yeah, definitely. And the girls that you mentioned, Taylor Gatt, she's only 20, Erica O'Shea's 22. Like, they're really young players. And so we were able to see a lot of improvement from our younger players. I mean, we often talk about our more experienced ones, but, this year was based off everyone contributing, and we were able to see career best form from, Alice and Ballas, who are, 22. So they're only super young as well. Erica again, Tess Craven had a tremendous grand final. So the improvement that we were able to get from those younger players, but also I think our experienced players still improved their game as well, certainly helped us.
Yeah, I think that's a great, and I did have a bit later on, but I'll bring her up now. I mean, the addition of Libby Birch really seemed to aid Sarah Wright, and her year was sensational. Incredibly stiff, not to be all Australian, in my opinion, and her final series was fantastic. And obviously, we had the number one defense. And how much of a factor do you reckon bringing Libby Birch in aided that?
Oh yeah, it was big for us because we probably just lacked one extra tall defender. Obviously, Ferg was our number one sort of tall defender, and then Righty, who's about my size, had to sort of play a lot taller than she actually is. So, and she did do a very good job in previous years doing that, but certainly having Libby being able to lock down on a key tall forward for the opposition was crucial for us, and it just allowed Righty to she reads the play so well and was able to just to come off her defender, her forward at the right time. Libby would often sort of hold her player down, so then Righty could come across and chop her out. So I just thought, as you mentioned, Bailey, like, she was so unlucky not to make All Australian. I just thought her year, her grand final. No one sort of spoke about Righty's grand final, but Jesus, she was so impressive coming off her opponent. Intercept marking. She's super courageous, and for someone that was really close to retiring a couple of seasons ago, she's pretty determined to keep getting better and better. So I'm looking forward to having another year with her.
Well, we are too, and it was great news when we saw her re-sign. I know a lot of
Mm.
North fans were stoked to see that, especially as you mentioned that she was close to hanging them up. But great to see her sticking on board.
Yeah, and we had yourself and Sarah at half time fighting for the best on ground. Probably you just ahead of her at half time. But
Yeah,
the back line really stood up early in the,
Yeah,
and
I
then
thought right.
you thought right,
yeah.
you,
Yeah,
okay, you can be humble about that, but no, we'll talk about it now, mate. Can we? You taking them on and just, well, we thought it was Boomer out there with the 1-2 handball, handball receives, the breaking of ankles. It was fantastic and really set the tone early in the grand final. And as we saw, Brisbane didn't have an answer.
yeah, it was the week before. I mean, I only played sort of 40% game time coming back from that hammy injury, and yeah, I think coming back for the first time that season, I was, yeah, I felt like I was very average in that prelim. I was just trying to get through the game as best as possible, but I was also probably just trying to chase kicks. So defensively, I was sort of out of court, got caught out of position a few times. So I was pretty determined going into the grand final to play my role to a T, and I made sure that I really planned what I knew that Brisbane were going to do, which they tended to sort of get their high forwards up towards the stoppage. So I knew that I could drop off at certain stages off my opponent and help outnumber when that ball came forward to us. But yeah, it was just sort of pleasing just to be able to get out there on the park with the girls. It was a bit of a frustrating sort of season for me in some regards, just with my body failing me at times. But yeah, to end the season like it did was so special.
Yeah, so touching on your injury, obviously you had a fantastic start to the season, looking like headed to yet another All-Australian, and then down in our hometown of Launceston, unfortunately, early on in a wet and wild day, which we'll touch on in a minute because, geez, you girls played in some conditions this year. But just on the hamstring injury, how severe was it, and did you know straight away?
Yeah, so it was a tendon issue, tendon tear in the hammy. So yeah, fortunately for me, it was didn't require surgery, but it was sort of a minimum 6 week kind of injury. But throughout the rehab stage, I got another tear in lower down in the tendon, different site, so that pushed me back a week. And then when I was preparing for the prelim, I had a calf strain as well that I did. So it was a bit touch and go leading into the prelim, which was a bit nerve wracking for me because I was confident that the girls could get the job done against Port. But if we did win against Port, I didn't want to have my first game back being the grand final. So fortunately for me, I was able to get back, albeit very limited game time against Port, and yeah, just got a bit of confidence from that game leading into the grand final. But yeah, it's sort of disappointing. I think I've been pretty lucky with injury throughout my career, but playing 3 games in 9 days probably didn't help. And the poor Launceston ground just did not drain very well for us. It was like playing on a swamp. So that's help either.
Yeah, the UTAS usually drains well, but it's actually got to stop raining for it to drain. I think that, and it was such a deluge before the game. Yeah, there was a lot of standing water. So, yeah, and it's a big ground too. So,
Yeah.
I mean, tired legs. Now, just going back to your rehab, how hard is it when you're trying to get up for a final and prove your fitness? How worried are you when you're doing whatever you're doing to prove yourself that you're not going to rip it again or hurt it? Like, are you going 80%, 90%, or do you have to go at 100 or
No,
through
there's
that?
certain speeds that the high performance team wanting you to sort of hit before you're able to sort of be allowed to play or even train fully. So I need to hit about 90% of my top speed, which I was able to do. But I tell you what, your mind is playing tricks on you. Like you are feeling every little thing that you're feeling in your body. You're like, oh, is that another tear? Or for me, I was just wanting to get through the warm up. I did a warm up away from the group because I am quite competitive. They knew that if I warmed up the group, I'd probably go a little bit faster than what I needed to do. So they warmed me up separately the whole time in that warm up. I was like, please get through, which I was able to. And even I trained fully the Wednesday before the prelim. I was able to train fully, but the whole time I was looking at the scoreboard where we have our sort of countdown clock for the end of training, and I was just like, all right, we're getting closer to the end. Just come on, just get through, just get through. So, yeah, it is stressful because you've got to put your faith in your body, and sometimes it doesn't work. But luckily for me, it did.
Just on the 3 games in 8 or 9 days, whatever it was there any talk about resting, sort of like yourself or Jazzy or Ash or any of the players?
Yeah, I mean, we were able to rest a couple of players. So we rested Jenna and Kate against Carlton. I think it was one of those ones because we don't get to play every team once. Every game is really important in terms of where you finish on the ladder. So um, we had just come a draw to Geelong. Geelong then that following week played Carlton, where they got absolutely flogged. So I think there was an element of we need to really respect Carlton, and we can't afford to rest all our players. In hindsight, we were able to beat Carlton quite comfortably, so potentially that could have been a game where we could have rested a few others. But it's so hard to know what the results are going to tell. And like, fortunately for the club, I was the only one that came out with an injury during that condensed fixture. But I'm very glad the AFL is not going to be doing that again.
Yes.
Um, so we'll touch on the qualifying final. How close were you to getting up, and how do you go watching? Because I don't reckon, just my gut feel, you'd be great sitting on the sidelines.
Um, no, I wasn't. I wasn't going to play in that qualifying final because I had a bit of a mishap throughout the rehab, so I wasn't quite hitting the markers that I needed to. So yeah, I knew pretty early on that I wasn't going to play in that game. So did all the girls. So yeah, it wasn't too much of an issue. Like clearly, I was pretty keen to play it, but I knew that the girls had enough confidence to get the job done against Adelaide. In terms of my watching, I'm actually pretty calm when I watch. Yeah, it might surprise a few because I'm not always that calm when I'm playing. So I think when you're on the sidelines, you can sort of have a bit more of a measured head about you. Although it is hard when you don't quite have the same sort of control. But yeah, I was fortunate that I was able to sit in the coaches' boxes for the games that I was injured, which gave me some great experience. Obviously, wanting to get into coaching post my playing. Well, I am in coaching now, but yeah, do it more full time. So yeah, it was an interesting experience. Hopefully, I don't have to have too many stints in rehab again, but wouldn't recommend it. That's for sure.
Yeah, and hopefully the full-time coaching's a while away because we don't want to see you
Yeah.
hang it up anytime soon.
What was your role in the coach's box? Were you just observing, or did you have a role you're assisting with?
Oh, no, I was sort of mostly observing. I was sort of helping our backline coach Nick Devro out a little bit, and probably more so looking at our high defenders, their patterns, how I can work with them, especially someone like Erica who's a bit inexperienced, just making sure that her positioning's right and how she can be a bit more of an offensive weapon for us. So that was probably my role. I would just put my 2 cents worth in every now and again, but sort of just wanted to let the coaches do their thing, and I can just yeah, put my 2 cents worth in every now and again.
So touching on the prelim, obviously coming back from that hamstring injury and walking into a 36-degree day or whatever it was, I think you played about 40%. Was that organised pre-game, or was it a bit of a match feel because we did get to quite a substantial lead that we had the ability to sort of manage your second half, or was that the plan coming in?
Yeah, the plan coming in was to be slightly managed. So I was probably going to be playing about 10 minutes per quarter. So I would have probably got to about 50 to 60% game time. But by 3/4 time, we obviously had a really handy lead. I'd hit a lot of the markers that I needed to, and I think high performance they were pretty happy if I kept playing. But I think Croc Croc sort of made the decision, like, what's the point? And I'm sort of glad that he did. You know, me being competitive, I was disappointed with how I was playing. I didn't think I was contributing much, despite even winning. So I sort of wanted to get back out there and give myself a bit more confidence. But now thinking back, I'm really glad that they just pulled the pin. I was able to take my boots off and just enjoy the girls playing in that last quarter, which was pleasing.
If
Yeah.
you're ever down on confidence, Emma, just go to your cupboard and open up and look at the 8 jackets you got in there and just think, I can do it, because you certainly
Uh,
can. You won that prelim final. I think you had a fairly hot contest really early and you won that. So that must have been a good feeling. Think you're 1-on-1 and you beat whoever you're on quite comfortably.
yeah, yeah, it is, especially early on in the game when you can have a good one-on-one win. I think that's a big bonus. I felt like a lot of the time the ball came to me, it was on the ground, so that's also was testing out my hammy a little bit there. So yeah, it wasn't ideal prep given the heat as well. I felt I was absolutely blowing up in that first quarter, but nevertheless, I got through and then got to raise the Premiership Cup the following week.
Yeah. Speaking of, so the grand final day, how do you find the build up going in, and then obviously with the added layer of being a night grand final this year, obviously a longer wait during the day. But what were your thoughts on the night grand final?
I like the night grand final. I think it's cool, like the spectacle. I like playing at night. I hated the wait for it though. Like it was shocking, and we're probably quite lucky actually because it was pouring in Melbourne all day. And then when we got to the ground, the rain had stopped. The ground drained beautifully, so there wasn't any moisture on the ground at all. So the conditions that we played in were absolutely perfect. And yeah, I just thought the spectacle. We didn't have the heat of the like from the sun on us either. So I think the initiative of night grand finals are great. Build up though, geez, it was a long day, that's for sure. And the fact that it was raining meant that you had to stay inside for a lot of it. So it's not like you could go on like a really nice walk or anything like that. But look, it was fine. I think if I was to compare this year to last year, the group as a whole, we were just like had so much confidence going into this grand final. I think last year it was like, oh yay, we got there. We're really happy that we got there. This year it was like, no, we are here and this is where we're meant to be. So getting to the ground, all the girls they were just so calm and relaxed. Like, and I reckon when I got to the ground, I knew then we've got this, just because
Yes.
of how everyone was.
Seeing some of the photos and vision, it did seem that way. Like there was, you can sort of see when you're locked up a bit on that game day, but there was the smiles and just the bit of banter that seemed to be prevalent most match days. So it was great to see that. My next question, you don't have to answer if you don't want to, but I'm sure you're well aware that your pre-game speech that they had the mics on, Channel 7.
Yeah,
That was personally one of my favourite moments of the day. Did you cop much flack for that?
nah, none at all actually. So maybe people were watching it on Foxtel and they didn't catch it. But no, there was only couple of Roos supporters that sort of reached out and said, "I loved your pre-game speech," but other than that, I haven't heard anything. So yeah, you've got it's a hard one. You got to yeah, because sometimes I think some of the girls they're probably not even listening. They're probably thinking about what their role is. They're worried about their nerves, whatever it is. But you got to try to find something that gives them a bit of motivation, fires them up a little bit, but also a bit of humour in there just to keep everyone a little bit more relaxed.
Yeah, I loved it. It was apart from you lifting the cup and obviously us winning, it was my favourite moment of the day. It was fantastic. And anyone who wasn't listening or wasn't fully motivated, I think that flicks a switch.
Yeah. And it got us as supporters pumped, and obviously one of our biggest rivals being Brisbane. And we're not their biggest
No, we've
fans.
seen them live down here at UTAS when they beat us, when
Oh
you
yeah,
had a shot after the siren from a long, long
yeah,
way out.
yeah.
Yeah, there was a bit of banter on the boundary that day, which
And obviously plenty of feeling earlier in the year, quarter time, bit of a scuffle with Vicky Wall putting someone on their arse, which we love to see
yes.
as well. But But yeah, that was awesome to see. So from the time the siren goes, take us through what the sort of the next 48 hours look like for you and the girls.
Yeah. So I suppose after the siren, after the ceremony, we sort of did a lap of honour. I don't even know what the crowd attendance was, but I reckon, say if it was 15,000, I reckon at least 14,000 were North fans, which was just amazing. It was just incredible going around doing the lap of honour and seeing so many North fans just being so excited for us. And I reckon there wasn't necessarily North AFLW fans, it was just North fans that were just so pumped. Obviously, we've been starved of success for so long. So to finally win a premiership was incredible. We didn't leave Icon until about midnight, I think it was. Obviously, night grand final, it's, you finish up a little bit later. And then we went out to the club put on a bit of an after party for us, just in Fed Square there. And so we were there. Oh, I don't even know what time we finished up. You know, we had our family, friends, admin staff, or everyone from the club came there, and then a few of the girls. Well, actually, a few of us all went to Chapel Street. We all had our footy guernseys on still. Headed to Chapel Street. I reckon it was about 6 a.m. by the time I got home, which is the latest I've been. The sun was shining. People were getting ready for work, and I'm coming home. So that was pretty incredible. I reckon we would have had maybe 2 hours sleep, if that, and then we got ourselves ready. We had a family day at Arden Street on the Sunday, and so there was thousands of fans there. We got presented up on stage, and then we mingled with all the fans to get autographs and things like that, which was, I think that's another special thing for them to come down to Arden Street, to see so many happy faces was great. And then we headed to a local pub in North Melbourne, where we sort of locked ourselves away there for a little bit. We then ended up that night actually on Arden Street. Croc was obviously one of the last to finish, as always. So he came with us. We were all on Arden. There was a group of us, probably about 20 of us left by that stage, all at Arden Street, just put some music on, just sitting on the ground, having a few drinks. It was very chilled, but it was just such a nice way to sort of finish off the celebrations, which was really special.
Oh, that's absolutely awesome. Just touching on the fan base, I've been pretty adamant on this pod that I think we've got the best supporters group for the AFLW, but I think that's also a testament to the girls, and yourself included, obviously, after the game, just interaction. I think that's something the AFL is fantastic at. So the AFLW, just the engagement with fans after the game as well. And I know, personally speaking, in Launceston, the girls taking that much time when they just played in torrential rain, and the wind was getting up, it was a bit cold, but just how selfless they all are, yourself included, in taking time out to talk to supporters is, yeah, I know it's greatly appreciated by all North fans.
No, I appreciate that. And I think like we understand the importance of us as role models, and trying to grow the game, and how much, the fans sacrifice to get to games just to support us is really special. So, if we can give them back 5-10 minutes, whatever it is, I think that's the least that we can do to, build our supporter base, but to support those ones that have been around for years.
Yep, and you've always been we've always been a really good side in the AFLW from when we first recruited. You've been the first recruit we got, and it's just a good product to watch. Like, you're an attacking side, you're obviously gun defend, so you don't have to worry about the opposition scoring too much. And I just don't want to take you back a few years, and I'm going on memory, so correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we lost the final, might have been to Freo at home.
Yep.
And the rumour, well, I heard was that you and Croc sort of sat down and maybe went over the list and what we need. And was that true? And if it was the need more speed?
Yeah, it was probably just we did have it. It was our leadership group, and Croc and our head of football, Nathan Rovat. We sort of sat down and worked out players that we needed. Clearly, it was speed, and that's why we got someone like Taylor Gatt through the draft. But it was just around having like really good people. That was the first thing that we needed to make sure that the people that we bring onto our list were like team first, just willing to play a role, and we were able to do that. And we've had a great list turnover, but the ones that we have been able to bring in have made great contributions and are really good characters on and off the field. So we have had to clean up our culture a little bit. It wasn't drastically bad, but it was probably filtered with some players that were probably not quite willing to play their role for the team. So we sort of had to move a few of those on, and fortunately we were able to bring in, younger players that brought heaps of enthusiasm and great characters off the field. So I feel like we're at a point now where our list is, we're really connected. We enjoy each other's company. We're willing to challenge each other if we don't do things in a team first manner. And that's probably been a reason why we've been able to have such success this season, was as a result of the people that we've been able to bring onto our lists.
Oh, absolutely. And you mentioned earlier the growth of some of the younger players. You mentioned Taylor Gatt has just been fantastic, and we've got like some of the older younger players like Mia King, really good this year.
Yeah,
Alex O'Loughlin,
yeah,
All Australian. I think Ruby Tripodi really played well and got
yeah,
into that midfield. We can go on. Amy Smith, talk about an ultimate role player. I mean,
yeah.
really good. So, and Tess, we've mentioned. It's just all goes well for the future, I think. It should be sustained success, hopefully. And then are we going to talk about the recruits that have come in?
Yes. So Eilish Sheeran, is that how I pronounce it? But obviously she's a big get, coming runner up the last couple of years to Mon Conti at Richmond in the best and fairest. What do
Yeah,
you think she can bring to the group, and whereabouts can we expect to see her play?
yeah. I'm not sure where she'll sort of fit. I mean, I think her best footy's off half back, so we might potentially see her off half back, but maybe through the midfield rotation there as well. She's one of those players that's super powerful. She's a high meters gained type of player. So yeah, really looking forward to adding her into the mix there. Yeah, I think she just adds depth to our already pretty strong side, which will make it really competitive for spots. So which just lifts the standards at training when people are competing for spots for each other.
Yeah, we'll just touch on the post-win celebrations.
Oh, yeah, missed that. That was.
Who was best on? Who was best on? Yeah, in the
Oh,
celebration. We saw a bit of footage from Vicky Wall. I know Nicole Bresnahan had a couple of great live streams at the pub, but in your opinion, who was best on?
Oh, I reckon straight after the grand final at the after party, I reckon Alice O'Loughlin. She was trying to pay for her drinks with her medal, and
I like it. Quite
tapping
right.
it on the FPOS machine, which that's classic Alice. She's a very funny operator. So she was probably best on. Jazz Ferguson was probably another one. She outlasts everyone. She's incredible. She was walking home along King Street, and then someone from the men's program was driving to work on the Tuesday and saw Jazz walking home. That's how late she was getting home. I think it was about 7 a.m. she was walking home. So that was a fair effort from her too.
Wow. And then obviously the players' trip in Newcastle, we saw a lot of the players getting the Premiership tattoo. Did everyone partake?
Nah, not everyone. I didn't get one. I wasn't sure where I wanted to put it, and I didn't want to make a rush decision. We did have a large proportion of girls getting it. Some on their triceps, some on their ankle, some on sort of their rib sort of area. So yeah, no, it was nice to see. I think it's been a bit of a journey for us to get to that point. We've had that sort of really consistent list for a number of years now, so we've grown a really strong bond, which was nice. So it was good to see a few people ink themselves.
Yeah, and some of the content put up for the fans was really good too, with the girls in the tattoo parlor as well. So yeah, I'm glad the club shared that.
Yes, going back to another signing we got, Ariana Hetherington. What can you tell us about her?
Yeah, sort of newish to the game, but really exciting prospect. She'll add just further depth to our ruck stocks. She'll be sort of that, yeah, whether she is ahead of, say, an Emma King or a Kim Rennie, Tom will tell, but what's been really impressive with her is she's a really, again, like Eilish, she's a really powerful sort of player. She's got the ability to sort of play a little bit of forward as well. So a little bit raw at this stage, but yeah, really exciting and one of the best characters. So she's just going to add to our culture show. Pretty social kind of operator. So I'm looking forward to her coming over from Perth. All the Freo girls that I've sort of briefly spoken to about her have just raved and just spoken so highly of her. So yeah, love the fact that she's a great character, but I think she'll add a lot of depth to our tall stocks and hopefully be able to contribute really nicely for us.
Oh, perfect. Switching to the men's program, I'm sure most of our listeners are across the fact that you're involved with development of the young forwards there. Who's impressed you the most so far this off season?
Oh, geez, there's a few of them. I think Paul Curtis came back in tremendous condition, probably the fittest that I've seen him. He's still so young, you sort of forget how young he is, but he's been really impressive. I think Robbie Hanson's been another one. He's super electric up forward. He's got that point of difference in terms of his speed and his freakish ability around goals. He's got great goal sense. So looking forward to those two developing nicely. In terms of some of the other players coming through, I think Will Phillips has been quite impressive this pre-season. He's got himself leaner and certainly covering the ground a lot better than previous years. So he's been great in and around stoppages. He's so clean. And then probably from our draft, Fino Sutherland, he's going to be really impressive. He's going to be one of the top players at North in a few years' time. So he's definitely one to get excited about for North fans.
Yeah, I think North fans are already really excited about him, and it's only going to grow when he hopefully debuts early this year. What
Yeah.
about? Can you tell us a little bit about Jacob Constanti? Obviously, came across with the Luke Parker trade. How's he tracking?
Yeah, he's gone around really nicely. He had a bit of delayed start to pre-season just with a foot issue that he had when he was playing at Sydney, but you know what he's gonna bring for you. He's tough as he can go back with the fight, unfazed. He wants to hunt the ball. He wants to hunt the body. He will bring a lot of tackle pressure, much needed tackle pressure to our forward line. He's only played some limited game minutes throughout pre-season, but what I've seen of him so far has been very impressive and something that North fans should get very excited about. We know that those high pressure forwards are very valuable to your team, and he's certainly going to bring that.
Oh, fantastic! That's very good to hear because it's something our forward line sort of lacked. A lot of our medium to small forwards are, more marking and lead up sort of Yeti forwards. Paul Curtis, as you mentioned before, he's just so strong in the marking contest, as well as Zerha as well. So it'd be great to see Jacob or Robbie Hanson Jr., who you mentioned, someone come in to play that small pressure forward role.
Yeah.
What's the vibe been around the group? Obviously, it seems like it's sort of turned a little bit this year, just from a lot of the messaging coming out and sort of from a development stage to a win now stage. Is that sort of what's being reflected?
Yeah, I think so. It's always really exciting this time of year. You're just seeing, different people develop. But I think pretty much similar to what our team was like. A lot of the boys came back in really good condition, hit so many PBs. So the training standards has really lifted. Adding someone like or players like Caleb Daniel, Jack Darling, and Luke Parker into the mix has also just lifted standards. Their knowledge and experience to help our younger developing players has been really crucial for us. The way that they are able to set standards, but they're also just the knowledge of the game plan and being able to help those around them has been really good to see. So looking forward to seeing them how they sort of slot into our team, but then just seeing we've got so much talent on our list now, so it's just about nurturing that talent and that hopefully we can see some more reward this season.
Yeah, we're really excited. Can you just take us through a typical day with your coach's hat on? So, what a day of main training or whatever your busiest day coaching is, what that entails.
Yeah, I'll go through a main training sessions, which are Mondays, Thursdays for the boys, but it'll start with a 7:30 coaches meeting where we pretty much just discuss what's happening in training, which players are going to be managed, the intensity that we need to be training at, just going through the drills. So we make sure that we're really organised. Then the development coaches will get on the track at about 8, where we do a bit of craft with the boys from about 8 to 8:20. From there, the players will go into a pre-training meeting, which will be driven by the line coaches. Typically, they don't last very long. It might be about a 10 to 15 minute sort of meeting. Might give them a little bit of an education about a specific part of our game plan, and then they'll talk about training, and then they're on the track. So in pre-season, the training sessions go for about 2 to 2.5 hours. Sometimes they might even stretch out to 3, depending on how big the session is. And then the boys are into their afternoon. So they'll have lunch after training, and then they're into their afternoon rotations, which consist of their weights and recovery. While they're doing that, the coaches are in another sort of meeting where they sort of review training. They look at what education needs to be covered throughout the week and plan for the lighter days where they do a lot of their education. So on Tuesday and Friday, that's when the coaches will do their meetings to educate the players on the game plan. So we typically speak about what we're going to cover off and what sort of vision from training we're going to take and do that. So that's probably what the main training session looks like. Usually wrapped up by 3:30, 4 o'clock.
Yeah, okay, that's great insight because we don't normally get access to that sort of detailed insight. Just going through, when you're going through the season in a similar thing, does the game plan, obviously it's, let's say 80%, this is how we play, but how much does it change opposition specific?
Yes, it does change a little bit opposition specific. Obviously, you're looking at what maybe defences, how they set up differently, how forwards set up as well. So each line will sort of plan on how the opposition will set up, and we might get, say, you might try to get a bit of a sag off a forward that rolls up to a stoppage, or they might have an extra around the ball or something like that. But typically, you sort of probably 80% of the game plan is around your style,
Yeah.
and the 20% is sort of navigating what the opposition are going to do. But yeah, the players are really well planned. They'll have a opposition review sort of meeting on, say, a Thursday if they're playing on a Saturday, and then the following day on a Friday they'll go into line specific, so they know the sort of matchups that they need to be playing on and things like that. So there's a bit of a planning going in place, but yeah, for the majority of the game, it's about how we want to play.
Yep.
Well, that's incredible insight. Thank you very much for that. I'll take over and give you a bit of an easier layup one. Obviously, Clarko known for his gags, and in the past, he's even brought the guitar out. Is there any memorable gags that he's pulled out this off season, or has he been strictly business?
Nah, he's tried to pull out a few gags here and there. I don't think they've hit really with the boys. We've got a really hard group. Tell you what, if you're trying to the coaches try to make things a bit lighter before training, so they'll throw out maybe a video here and there or whatever and try to make a bit of a joke out of it. Geez, they're a tough crowd sometimes, our boys. There's got to be something really funny for them to laugh at. So there's been a few times where Clarko's tried to make a bit of a gag and hasn't gone down too well. But, he's still trying, and he's still going to be throwing out gags. I think the most important thing about footy, it can be a bit of a serious business, but if you can keep it lighthearted and fun at times, it certainly helps with your culture.
Yeah, couldn't agree.
Yeah, well, this time last year when we spoke to you, you were kind enough to do this about a year ago. Harry Sheezer was playing half back, and we were big on moving him midfield and forward. And I've just read somewhere today that he may have been training out of the goal square. Is that right? In a match sim, or I think reading the tea leaves from afar, it looks like he's going to spend more time forward, which we love because he was drafted as a forward. He's elite talent, elite vision, can do things not many other players, if any, can do. So You don't have to give away the game plan, but you can leave it as a statement, or you can follow up with a comment if you like. But leave it
Oh, look,
Harry
the only
Paul.
comment I'll make is we've got a lot of versatility throughout our list. So you'll see a lot of players rotating through that mid forward role. Won't be just Harry. It'll be Tom Powell, Luke Davies-Uniacke, like Zerha, Paul Curtis. Like I think that's the main thing is having versatility and throwing up different looks to the opposition. And so that's what we've been able to do. Colby McKerch is another one
Yeah.
that you'll sort of see that mid forward role. So different looks. Yeah, you won't just see Harry just sitting in the goal square. I'm sure you'll see him floating
Oh no,
around
I didn't want him there full time, but yeah,
last.
I
But
just
yeah, you'll certainly see him floating through the midfield a lot of the
yeah,
time.
nice.
Right, we might just ask you one more before we go. You've been so gracious with your time. Thank you a lot for that. Back to the AFLW. With so much talent, and particularly young talent on our list, how confident are you that we can continue to contend for, say, the next 3 to 5 years? Hopefully, with you there the entire time.
Yeah. Oh, geez, that might be pushing it, but no, really, yeah, really confident that we'll be able to contend for a sustained period. No one's been able to go back to back yet, so we're confident that adding extra depth to our side will actually help improve us as a team. And I know a few of the girls are like, geez, we could have actually played a lot better in the grand final. So to win a grand final but still have the hunger to know that we could have played better, I think it's a really positive sign for our group. And yeah, we'll hopefully grow and keep getting better and better. And yeah, I think, as you mentioned, the young talent coming through along with our experienced players will set us up for success. Oh, I can't even say it. You might have say it for me.
Yeah, sustained success.
Yes,
That's it.
After.
I think with you being captain and driving the culture, and you've already mentioned how we've got a great culture at the club. Yeah, I know you're that competitive. You won't let this opportunity slide, and you won't be happy unless you're holding the cup again. So we're
That's
looking
exactly
forward to
right.
that.
No, thank you. Me too.
Yes. Well, we might leave it there. Thank you so much again for jumping on for our first two-time guest, and great to get those insights from you, playing and coaching, and looking forward to the men's season kicking off, and then of course our title defence later in the year, and hopefully back to back for the girls.
Yes, fingers crossed.
Emma,
I hope to see you at some games.
yeah, we'll
Yes,
be there.
absolutely. All
Thank you
right.
so much for jumping on.
Thanks, Emma.
No worries. Thanks very much for having me. See ya.